All right, so today we're talking about continuous integration with GitHub Actions. And then for some of us who are probably hearing about it for the first time, or for those who have heard about it before, I will just quickly do a quick overview of what continuous integration means. Then I'll talk about it from the context of GitHub Actions. So in the software development lifecycle, it's becoming a norm to build systems that are deployed on the go. As you build, you deploy. As you build, you deploy. There's no longer a scenario where you build and wait for, say, a release day where you pile up all your changes and you then wait for a singular release moment. What we have today is a situation where as you build your code, it's being tested, it's being deployed immediately to production. And then this method of building your software and pushing it almost immediately is what you would term a continuous integration process. And managing that life cycle of your software development is entirely what you would think about when you come to continuous integration, continuous delivery, or continuous deployment. So in our scenario, we will be looking at how GitHub Actions can help us achieve this continuous integration workflow that we are talking about. And today's teaching or session is not meant to be a long, boring PowerPoint session. It's meant to be as interactive as possible. So I encourage questions as we go. And then the slides are not very many, but the hope is that we learn a lot as we proceed through this session. So let me move on to the next slide. So yeah, what is GitHub Actions? That's what we would be looking at in this entire session. So the agenda for today mainly is me telling you what GitHub Actions are, the features, the pros, the cons, and then we will be looking at how they work. And from one of the points you see there, I put YAML again. In our DevOps world, it's more or less almost impossible not to deal with YAML. And YAML is a markup, text markup format that has gained popularity for almost everything we do, ranging from Kubernetes to even GitLab CI up to Circle CI, and now in GitHub Actions. So almost all the tools we use followed this same pattern for describing configurations in one form or the other. And then from there, we'll go to a basic workflow definition, and we'll talk about some of the key objects that we use in GitHub Actions. Then there is this concept of what actions are, and then I would just quickly give us an overview of what it looks like for you to have an official GitHub action or a community action or even a personal action. You could write up your own personal action, and then later we would be building and deploying a simple app and maybe configure linters, run some tests and security scans. Well, also push images to GitHub. So I mean, what's continuous integration these days without Docker? Sorry, I meant to say Docker earlier. What's continuous integration without Docker? So we would also explore that as we go. So what are GitHub Actions? So at its core, GitHub Actions enable you to automate your workflows. So a typical workflow would entail something like write your code, push the code to the repository, have some scans on it, build your code, test your code, and then push your code to production or push an image to a repository. These are workflows. And then it's also possible to have some task scheduling and what you call CI/CD. Some of us might be familiar with that infinity symbol that is usually used to describe DevOps. In that flow, you have build, you have test, you have deploy, you have what you do is to help you manage aspects of that workflow where you can build. And of course, since GitHub Actions is tied into GitHub, it means that you can have your workflows in the same place where you have your code repository. So once you push your code to one location, everything can follow through from there on and up to production. So in our case, or in a sample scenario, you can have building your code or pushing your code first, building your code, testing your code, and then pushing to production or a remote repository. And then even if it's something as simple as running a task on a schedule, GitHub Actions would allow you to do that because, of course, it's workflow automation. So if every midnight, for example, you have a security scan that you need to run on your code, this is not pushing the code to production, or even if it's an hourly task that you want to run, GitHub Actions would help you achieve that as well. So this is not just a tool for CI/CD. CI/CD is one of the things that it helps you do, but along the line, you can add more things as you want. So it's flexible enough to help you achieve that. And a core part of GitHub Actions is that it's event-driven. Events here being that actions that happen to your repository. So since we have your GitHub repository, an action could be a pull request. An action could be a push to a branch. An action could be issue comments, or when an issue is raised on your repository, it could trigger an action. So all these are many types of actions that you can use in triggering your workflows. So the core of your GitHub Actions is your workflow, and it helps you with that automation of your workflow as you go. Then there is a link here for more of the features that you can find on GitHub Actions. These slides will be shared after this session. Next, we have how does GitHub Actions actually work? Remember, I said that events trigger workflows. The heart of GitHub Actions is the workflow. So you have events that will trigger your workflow. You have a push, pull, a deployment, issue, comments, a lot of other actions or triggers. Once these events trigger your workflow would have one or more jobs that are going to be run. And each job is comprised of multiple steps, one or more steps in any case, and then steps themselves are a sequence of actions. So you could think of the entire flow we have here from left to right. When an event happens, your workflow starts running in quotes, and in your workflow, you hit a job, and then in the job, you go to the steps. Then your steps are going to be a sequential hierarchy of actions. So if your steps say check out code, it checks out code. And then the step says run scan, it runs scan. So you have the steps like that. And then the beauty of GitHub Actions is that you can have multiple workflows for a single repository. So if I had my deployment workflow, for example, I could define my deployment workflow in a separate workflow file. The workflow files, of course, are YAML files. And then I could also define something like, say, maybe a nightly security scan in a separate workflow and determine or specify what branch it should run on. So these steps that we have here would always be what you have for a typical workflow in your GitHub Actions. If I'm too fast or you have any questions in between, please let me know. I would help out as much as I can. Then these are some of our key workflow syntax that we use on a daily basis in GitHub. Remember, I said that it's an event that triggers the workflow. So a syntax that you would always use, no matter what kind of workflow you're writing, is the on syntax. So on tells you what kind of events we want. So is it on a pull request, or on a push to the repo, or on an issue, or on a comment? So, or basically any of the actions that we can think of that would trigger our workflow. So the on keyword is used for this regard. When I say on push, it means that whenever there's a push to our repository, run this workflow or trigger this workflow. And of course, for your workflows, you need a name. So there's a name keyword that you can use in determining or defining your workflows. And then jobs. Remember, it's events, jobs, and then steps. So you would see that here I specified jobs, and then there's a runs on keyword as well, which determines the base OS you should run your job on. So if it is Linux or Windows, you should run your job with the runs on keyword. Then there's steps. So sequence of steps will determine how your jobs would run. So I would recommend that we go through the link below. There are a lot of keywords, but these ones are the ones I think you would see no matter what kind of workflow you are writing. So moving on from there, excuse me. Yeah, oh, sorry about this. I thought all right. Okay, so moving on from there, you would have your actions. There are actions that are official actions, meaning these are actions that have been approved by GitHub themselves. These actions are usually actions that you would perform regularly. So an action like build your Docker image, these are common steps or common actions. So you have official actions for those. And then there are actions like maybe posts to Slack. Currently, you don't have or I haven't seen an official action for that at least does some of the custom tasks that you would want. But basically, there are community actions as well, meaning that people contributed them to the GitHub community for their own use. So if I am in, say, Lagos, for example, and I want to know the traffic situation in, say, I could literally write an action to perform that. And if I think that is useful, I could contribute it to the community, and then that becomes a community action. Or you could also keep your actions to yourself in your own repo and launch them from that point on. So those are some of the things that you can do with GitHub Actions. And before I move on, I would pause for some questions before we see a demo. Yeah, this is pretty much a quick introduction to GitHub Actions and doing continuous integration with GitHub Actions. So I would pause for one or two questions, then move on to the demo session to let us see how this works in our live environment. Yeah, so any questions or any part that is unclear? Yeah, please, Chinonso, go ahead.
Hi. So just a question. The jobs run on the base OS run your steps.
Yes.
I'm a bit, is it on what machine exactly? These jobs are being run on your GitHub instance, right? Web or self-hosted GitHub. But I don't get where or this base OS. I'm a bit confused about. Is it where you are deploying or where I need a big clarification. Sorry.
Yes. So that's a good question. The base OS in this case is going to either be your self-hosted runner. GitHub has the concept of runners. Whatever machine runs your workflow is called a runner. And then these runners can be self-hosted, meaning that you have your own machine in your data center or in your cloud service provider, and then you configure this machine to run your tasks. This is the approach that is followed by most private organizations that use GitHub Actions. They set up their own machine and then run the actions within their machine. So this provides some added form of security. But in the case of, say, an open source project or a project which you don't mind running on a public server, GitHub provides servers to run your workflows for you. So out of the box, you would have maybe a Linux or Ubuntu server to run your workflow. in the course of our demo, you'll see how to specify the operating system, but bear it in mind that if you want your own personal operating system, GitHub Actions allows this possibility as well. And then there's the concept of build minutes that they give to you. If your project is open source and your repository is public, they allow you to run infinite number of build minutes on their public cloud. But if you have a private repository, you have just about 3,000 build minutes per month for your private repository. Then it goes on like that in tiers. So if you want them to have your workflows running in their cloud service and you want to have more than 3,000 build minutes, you have to start paying for that as an organization or as an individual. But basically, the base OS here means where you run the application. So it could be self-hosted or in their public cloud system. I think there, yeah. Okay, so I have a question from Olajide, and he said, is Git Actions the most widely acceptable, or are there many other CI/CD development platforms? Okay, so that's one question. It is one of the most widely acceptable CI/CD systems. Remember, it's not just a CI/CD system; it's a workflow automation tool. It's one of the most widely acceptable. So you have Jenkins being one of the most popular. Jenkins has been there for as long as we have been doing DevOps. And then after Jenkins, you have, say, GitLab CI, which also has pretty much the same model, but each and everyone has their own advantages and disadvantages. So, for example, one of the key advantages of GitHub Actions is that it lives where your code lives. And then it has somewhat simpler syntax compared to, say, some of the other CI/CD systems that you might come across. And it pretty much depends on what your organization wants to do. But if you were running an open source project and your code is on GitHub, I mean, GitHub Actions could just be the next step for you. Then there is another question saying, what if some organizations don't make use of Git Actions? Does the YAML file have the same or different configuration for different CI/CD tools? Yes, each and every organization or service provider, maybe GitLab or Jenkins or CircleCI, each and every one has a different syntax structure. So GitLab CI code would not work with GitHub Actions. Also, it wouldn't work with CircleCI. So everyone is custom to their own product. Any other questions? Okay. So in the absence of questions, I would switch to a quick demo just to show us how this works. Mind you, whatever steps we do here are actually also possible in any other CI/CD system, just that some make it more flexible than the other. As far as CI/CD goes, you have the popular ones like your Jenkins, GitHub Actions, GitLab CI, and CircleCI. But for the purpose of this discussion, our focus is primarily on GitHub Actions. All right, so for the demo, yeah, this section, just a quick overview here. This actions are from the official GitHub Actions page. Can you see my screen just for clarification?
Yes, we can. We are in your GitHub Actions page now.
All right, awesome. Okay, so these are my GitHub. So as much as possible, try as if you can't, well, it's fine. You can use the community versions, but and for this GitHub Actions repository to see if you can find what you need. If not, then use a community version of whatever operation you want. Okay, basic products. Let me see. Let me pull up my code and so So before we started this session, I had created no, this is a okay. So this is just a basic and empty blank project that we have right now, configurations whatsoever. The first step in writing your GitHub actions is to create a .github/workflow folder, the master branch. So nothing the .github/workflow directory. So I want that to exist. So I will have a .github/workflow. So these are the first elements that you would need for any GitHub Actions workflow actions folder. So right now, this is our empty repository. In fact, just to let me remove this again, just to show you that nothing would happen with workflow folder. And then in our project, I have some files outside this directory, so I'll just copy them here. So this is basic application, just a hello world that prints some information process. So this is all I have for my project. And then I'll add this to my repository. Let's call it so I would push this to the repository here. So as this stands, we should have our first defined. Nothing happens when we come here. So it's still bare at the moment. All these go through with your workflow. So you can set up a simple workflow using this button here, or if your app was a Node.js app, CI/CD as it can be. So if I were to be deploying my application to ECS or just available to me, and then of course these are just some of the suggestions that they have for you, not an exhaustive list by any means. So for now, I would ignore all these because I have a sample workflow that I would like to share. But if you have no and then you have zero actions itself would provide you templates that can help you run your workflows out of the box. So this is one of the key things that makes GitHub Actions one of the best things that we have out there. It's not the most popular, but it's one of the best. I would recommend this anytime, any day to anyone. So back to our code itself. So we just pushed our code and nothing happened, no workflow, no continuous integration or anything of the sorts happening at the moment. So what we would want to do is say that, oh wait, we need to build this code and push to maybe Docker Hub as we go. So that is where we would, excuse me, bring back our workflow here. So now I have my workflow, but it's empty. So I need to put in my workflow file there. So in the same vein, I already had a workflow file that I would like to use. I'll copy it to .github and /workflow. So I have my build.yaml. So let's go through this quickly. So this is just now to build a demo app. And then the name of my workflow is build demo app, literally just build demo app. And remember I said that on is the keyword to determine the events that will trigger this workflow. So in my case, I'm saying once there's a push to the main branch, trigger this workflow. That's what I'm saying here. And then remember that I said that a work job here called build, and then it runs on Ubuntu latest. Ubuntu latest here is going to basically just pull actions on that Ubuntu operating system. So if this was a private runner, I would specify self-hosted here instead of Ubuntu latest. And then also remember that our jobs are a series of steps. So in my steps here, I'm saying that use the official actions and perform the checkout step here. So there is already a precompiled GitHub action for us to use here. So I just gave it the name of checkout code I have here, and check it out. Normal Git checkout that you would have in your workflows or in your pipelines. And then because I want to build my image and push to Docker Hub, I'm saying that login into Docker Hub as well. So this Docker runner here or Docker action is also an official Docker action. So not like I wrote this. So you will notice that most of the steps here, actions or commands can be actions. It's usually a verified person. This I'm getting from Docker and a Docker Hub token. For those of us who use Docker Hub on a day-to-day, you know that in recent times they had changed the method of login. You no longer use a username and password for logging in into your Docker from a command line interface. You use a token. That's why we have secrets.docker app Docker Hub username and secrets.docker Hub token. Now this secrets keyword, we haven't spoken about it before, and that's also one of the superpowers in quotes that you have with GitHub Actions. It has inbuilt secrets management. In most other CI/CD systems, for example, CircleC, you always have to look for a way to inject the secrets command. In the case of GitHub Actions, you have this secrets inbuilt, and then for project settings. So this is our repository. These secrets, I have saved them as well. the settings of your you a secrets. This is dependent on the arena. So moving on from that, my push action or put into Docker sessions or topics, you would know that this is using a Golang image, and I'm saying that I want /app to be my working directory. Then this is just me copying our Go file into the work directory, then building it and tagging it as demo, then using the entry point or command of the command to run whenever this container is called. That's just all this is doing. All the elements to run are build. We can then turn in motion or in play. So let's do that now. Excuse me. What's okay? So add that, then tag it with whatever message. Build and push to Docker Hub. So I push that. So now I should have some new activity going. So I just did this, and then okay, did we make a mistake? Yeah, there must be one. Yeah. So I think I need this, and I have workflow. So let's correct that. I'll just send commit message. Okay. Weird. What happened? Demo day. Demo day, and demo goes an over me. So I'm in trouble. So this is me troubleshooting in a live session. So I'm trying to figure out where my error is. And so workflows. Wow. Zero divisions, blah blah blah. Oh, yeah. So our workflows was correct, and then so basically the error was just the S, and then it took some time to reflect here. So, but nonetheless, we see that this action, so what happened? Build workflow. So I was logging into GitHub, but wasn't found. So this is also one of the sweet parts here. The error messages, you can get the error. So let me just remove those steps in my Docker. Let me skip all these steps altogether. By now, we should have an updated action. Okay, so we still had an error yet again. What happened this time around? Okay. So this is not a about checking that again. So what is a fate? Oh dear Lord. So let me see. I would basically cheat here. What's up? What's up? Yeah, so let me push that up as well. So push that up. And then now we should have two actions or two workflows basically to run. So you notice that it's showing that two workflows have been triggered. The first one is build demo app, which we have been running since, and then we now have scan for secrets, which was just introduced a few seconds ago. So we have these two workflows running right now. So if I were to view this workflow, I have my scan.yml running and it has been successful. So the results of this would show me what happened in my scan. Yeah, so So basically, my scanner also ran successfully. And at this point, we have multiple workflows. It's also possible to have jobs depend on each other. If, look, for example, if I wanted to say after build, scan or scan before build, we could alter the order in which we run them. And that's where you have the depends on parameter coming into play. So this is pretty much a quick overview of what GitHub Actions would help you do and how you would use it. There are a lot more features for GitHub Actions that I haven't mentioned. I do encourage us to go through presentations and workflows. So you have this. So all these are basic actions that you can run with GitHub Actions. There is a schedule that I mentioned earlier. Then you can define how your jobs will run, the concurrency in which it will run, then your steps and the conditions for those steps as well. So there are a lot of things to play with respect to GitHub Actions. So this has been a quick overview, and then I would leave the floor open for questions. Are there any questions? Question or questions?
Hi. Sorry. The terminal commands you use now, they're just short forms of normal
Oh
Git
yeah,
commands, right?
yeah. So I use Z and those shortcuts were part of Z Shell.
Okay.
So if you have Z Shell on your computer, you should have them
Yes, I do.
mostly. It just makes life easier.
Sure.
Okay. So anything else we should discuss before coming to the end of this session? Okay.
Please, if we have any questions, let's unmute our mic and ask. Okay, so I don't know if there's any other person. Okay.
Moya, sorry, I thought you had questions.
Yes, I think I was talking. So I just wanted to know, GitHub Actions, you use it just for continuous integration, or you can use it in automating the whole pipeline up to deployment?
You can use it for the entire pipeline. Remember at the beginning, I said it's workflow automation. So CI/CD is just one of the things you can do with it. You can literally do anything you can imagine. As far as you can codify your steps, you can use GitHub Actions for it. So you can more or less run differential scripts at a given interval. If you wanted to check if Google was up, for example, you can have a job that runs on a schedule for that. Just for the fun of it, why not write that kind of job? Just for the fun of it. But so basically, you can have any kind of task that you would want, and then run it on a schedule or run a pipeline or a batch job that would help you achieve the same thing. So it's not just CI/CD. It's pretty much anything. It's that flexible for you to handle, and it's part of GitHub. So that is an added advantage. So all your developers would have easy access to it in your GitHub workflow. So one of the cons in GitHub Actions, everything I've been saying so far has been a plus, plus, plus. But one of the cons you would have is if your code doesn't reside in GitHub, it might not be as easy to use. That's one of the cons. But of course, it doesn't mean that you cannot set up your access to your repository. Remember, I showed you secrets in your workflow, and it will pull your code into GitHub Actions. But for the best service, for a seamless nature, if your code is in GitHub, it's smoother. It can run your code if it's outside GitHub, but it's not as smooth. So that's one thing to note.
Cool.
Okay. So just one more question. Take for instance, we are it's making YAML file. Let's say the CI/CD tool is Jenkins, for example, and your code is living on GitHub. How is then? Of course, when you push, the job is to run on Jenkins, right? How is how will I say this now? How do I connect them? That I'm saying.
How do you connect a job that's supposed to run on Jenkins to your GitHub project? So if you are using your Jenkins, Jenkins is mostly self-hosted, right? In 80% of the cases, you have self-hosted Jenkins. So in your self-hosted Jenkins, you would have configurations inside your Jenkins that have your GitHub token, for example, and then that token can be used by Jenkins to pull your code into Jenkins.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah, so let me cause trouble between GitHub and Google. Oh, by the way, there is this nifty website, crontab.guru. I don't memorize cron tabs, just use their own syntax, and then just, so in my case, I just want to run something every 5 minutes. So I would say, I think //5. Yeah. I think we have the quotes around. Oh, I left out my job. After this, then job. You'd also notice that I have some command completion options. This is because I have this extension on my VS Code. So it would pretty much give me almost everything that is available with respect to GitHub. So that's where that's command completion comes from. So that's, by the way. So, anyways, we have officially come to the end. This is me just toying with the schedule to say that run every 5 minutes. So once I push this to my GitHub repository, it should ping Google every 5 minutes. So if my syntax is correct, if I push this, I should start bugging Google every 5 minutes. But just for the sake of my GitHub account, I'm not going to do it. I don't want my account to be blocked or flagged. So, but you get the idea. So basically, you should be able to run your tasks on a schedule and then define whatever you want. I even have a case of a production scenario where this whispers that I demoed here we run it at 12:30 every day. So developers push their code all day, and then at night we scan the code and then tell. Hi, Catherine. Okay, yeah. So as I was saying, we scan every 12:30 and then reports to Slack what the findings were. So the length and breadth of what you can do with GitHub Actions is limited to your own imagination. Basically, it's as flexible as you can get. So that's kind of about it, about GitHub basics. I'll say basics. We've not scratched, or we just scratched the surface of what GitHub Actions can do. Are there any other questions? If there are no other questions, I would like to draw the curtains close on this topic today, and I'm open to questions that you might have after now. And then I think Favor will share the slides with you. I would add some tasks, some basic and advanced tasks. The essence of the advanced task is to encourage you to do some research on your own on what GitHub Actions provides, and then you would probably submit for grading or something. I don't know. That depends on Favor, but by and large, I think that is it from me, and I'll hand over to Favor.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. So I want to guess no one, like we don't have questions anymore. Ayo, I can see you're muted your mic. Do you have a question? All right. Okay. So I think that will be it. Okay. So David, just like you said, when you share the slides, I'll share it with everyone as well. And I think whatever tasks you're going to be giving them, they'll be reporting to you. So you might just have to do the assessment whenever at your convenient time. So we'll take it up from here.
All right.
All right. So thank you very much. Enjoy
thanks everyone for.
Thank you very much, David.
Thanks everyone.
Yeah, thanks, David.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.